Welcome back to the library, dear Wonder. Today, we're heading back once again to Library Wing 1, back to King Shash's shelf, where we'll pick up the first work we find. Donated by Dr. Everett Mann, it appears to be part of the Journal of the Walk. 81st turn, 7th year, 25th cycle, Skyday. From the Journal of Aphramas Long Journey, Pilgrim, with notes by Avos Tor, Scholar of Reeve Library. Skyday, 25th cycle, 7th year, 81st turn, 92nd day in the trees. We continue to push through the forest. We have yet to return to the path. I have a new appreciation for paths and roads. Not only are they far easier to walk on, they show us which direction to go, or at least a direction to go. A path must lead somewhere, or it would not be a path. We do not know where we are going. If I knew the stars of this place, I could navigate that way, but even when I can make them out between the branches, I can't see any of the constellations I'm familiar with. I did not know that it was possible to travel so far that the stars change, but I appear to have managed it. Torn said that other travelers on the path have told him that any time they left the path, they still returned to it after a few days, which was comforting. Or it was, until he added, "But those who never found the trail would not be met so sound and hale." Regardless, we have no choice but to keep moving. We will not find our way by standing still. And a footnote here. If you are lost in the woods, it is normally best to stay in place so you can be found by rescuers. However, this assumes that rescuers are searching for you. Also, that you are not being hunted by something that wants to eat you, or worse, sell you magazines. We made our camp in a hollow formed by a fallen tree that was massive in life. 3 barrow could have lain head to foot in the stump and stretched out comfortably. A bend in the crooked log made a comfortable shelter. We have made no fire, and as the sun sets, it will soon be too dark to write anymore. You move to put the page from the Journal of the Walk back with the rest of them, and as you do so, you spot something. The next book, of course, but also another page of the Journal of the Walk. You decide to pick that up first, and begin reading it. It looks like it was contributed again by Dr. Everett Mann. 81st turn, 7th year, 18th cycle, Skalday. From the Journal of Aphramas Long Journey, Pilgrim, with notes by Avos Tor, Scholar of Reeve Library. Skalday, 18th cycle, 7th year, 81st turn, 39th day in the trees. 4 days we have been traveling in this swamp. This is the first day that we have found a place dry enough that I dared open the journal to write. Never have I seen so much water. There is very little ground, only small islands. Those islands have grown fewer and fewer as we walk further through. We are walking on a wooden path now, since the land has been swallowed by this water. At first, there was only a bridge here and another there, where water collected at one place or another. Then there was more water, and the bridges became more numerous. Then the path was a series of bridges punctuated by little spots of land peeking above the water. Now, the path is tied to the trees, for there is no longer enough land to support it. The trees are as large as any others I have seen, save the red giants. Not in height, for they do not rise that high above us, but in breadth. Some grow through the water like giant reeds, while others float on rafts made from their roots and other debris. The water is deep. I am not certain how deep, for it is muddy, but I have seen large animals moving below us, appearing as shadows in the water. There are insects everywhere. They range from small midges barely visible to dragonflies as long as my forearm. Soja sometimes jumps at them as they pass by. Once, she frightened me by nearly falling over the side. I rushed to rescue her, but she regained her balance. Even the water is strange, for it grows deeper and shallower as the day progresses. And there's a footnote here. I read through this part, and I remain amazed. If I understand correctly, this means that Aphromas traveled through the legendary Swamp Sea, a place that has eluded explorers for centuries. Twice a day, it changes its depth. It never reaches the path, but sometimes it is close enough that I can reach it with my tail. Other times, I would have to hang by my feet from the edge of the path to reach the water below us. It is very unnerving to me. Torn thinks it is normal. But what if it does not stop rising one morning? What if it continues rising until we are covered? What if one of those shadows comes along then? I never thought that water could be frightening. And now that that page from the Journal of the Walk is safely amongst the others of its kind, you move back to the book you saw before. This one was donated by RJB_R. Stars. The stars have started to come out. I can see them through the cracks in the ceiling. Used to be that on nights like this, I'd be up in the Eastern Tower, watching them. I had one of those big brass telescopes that the Academy uses, with the knobs on the right side and the crooked stand. Grandfather had imported it from Changzhou for my 11th birthday. Only the heavens know how he was able to get a trader to a land that far off. The telescope was something else. I was able to see the images of all the stars on the horizon. There were big stars, little stars, flashy stars, and the distant objects that grandfather told me were the moons and planets. Many nights would end with me fast asleep in front of it, a celestial book in my lap, and a pudgy young face resting against the viewing piece. Grandfather said that these weren't really the stars, just the images. The memories of how they looked long past. It was an honor, he said, to be able to gaze upon such a storied history. I remember one night grandfather took me out to the courtyard to watch the stars fall. It was beautiful. They danced and twirled through the sky, a seemingly endless supply of brilliance and color. They flashed and pulsed with light, as if they had been waiting for me to put on a show. Although I begged him for months and months, he never went out there again. Even if it was only one trip, the image of the stars frolicking swiftly through the cosmos had stayed ingrained in my mind. When I became head of the council, there was no more nonsense like that. I was grown up, and there was to be no funny business on my watch. I made sure my own son was given the greatest education in the land and given tutelage in the widest berth of material. But for the study of the cosmos, we learned with each other. He and I would crowd around that dusty old telescope, keeping close watch on the heavens and their constellations. I miss him now more than ever. When he was lost to the family, the entire nation seemed to grieve. All my defenders were sent to search, and when he was found broken and still at the border, there were no words that could describe my grief. I was despairing, and in this state I demanded retribution. The defenders took up my banner, and we attacked those we believed to have wronged us. We ravaged them with our hate, destroyed every man, woman, and child. We felt justice had been done. But the heavens did not smile as we smote our enemy. When they saw us driving them from their lands and slaughtering them in greater number than had ever been seen, it was too much to bear. The heavens descended on us, first in small number, then greater. So many stars that I had once seen flitting about the vast frontiers came down to us, breaking everything we held. The flashing of light could be seen for many miles when they fell, and we found ourselves suffering a worse fate than our tormentors. I do not know why I had been spared, perhaps to serve as a living legacy to the folly of my kingdom, or perhaps to bear witness to the end of a dynasty. When the time comes, I will go to the tower one last time and look over the vast emptiness of the land I once ruled. The stars look beautiful tonight. A wonderful story of hatred and love, of loss and retribution, and apparently it has a connection to something the jailers hold, a number 1591. But that's something that you'll have to find for yourselves, because we have another story to move on to. This one was donated to the library by Dr. Lucas. The King's Secret. The earth rumbles and the 5 towers shake. The sky rumbles and lightning strikes the earth. Great are the sheets of rain that now bombard all under the sky. On the 5th and centermost tower of Turris Quink, King Lucas Bane gazes towards the west with great fear and despair. In the west lies the lands of the Pit, or in proper terms, Noctur. Turris Quink and Noctur were locked in a constant battle for thousands of years. The strength of Quink was great, however, the power of Noctur could not be undone. Even now, the enemy refuses to allow a clear sky, so every month would bring a week where the distinction between land and the sky dissolves. The rain seems endless as they smite the crops and hammer on their roofs. It has only been 3 months since the rains came, and already the city was on the verge of collapse. Lucas sees no victory in this fruitless war against the enemy. Whereas Noctur had endless armies and powerful weapons, he only had the support of a limited number of barely trained men and a low supply of raw material that could be used to forge weapons. Yet he is afraid that there is no escape from the war. It was not always like this. Just only half a year ago, Quink had the alliances of men from the north and south, and also the great elves from the east. Alas, even they realized the hopelessness of the war, and the alliances disintegrated. Suddenly, the heavy clouds of storm clear and return to the pit from whence they came. Lucas sighs deeply and gets up from the throne. Slowly he walks down the steps from the pinnacle of the tower until he comes to the main hall. The guards solemnly open the east door. Lucas steps grimly outside to the raised platform outside the door. The crowd is cheering for the light of the sun. They sing songs that praise the bravery and might of the king over the enemy. Lucas appears tall and kingly in front of the crowd. He clears his throat and starts his speech. The kings and queens of yore have guarded the citadel of Kink, the center of humanity, for 1,000 years. Now I shall do the same as my ancestors have done, for I am King Lucas Bane. The crowd hails their great lord, yet to himself his words are empty. In the crowd is Lesador Kaelin, the son of Oliver Kaelin, the great warrior who once drove back a battalion of the enemy with only 9 soldiers by his side. Oliver was perhaps the most famous warrior of his generation, second only to King Lucas himself. Lesador had trained in his father's footsteps and rivals his skill. He was as clever as his father, perhaps even more so. However, when he looks upon the King of Quink, he sees a great leader that even his father admires greatly. Suddenly, the ground rumbles as if in an earthquake. The king's expression grows serious, and he shouts in a clear and powerful voice, "To arms, my fellow brothers and sisters! Drive back the evil away from our lands!" The king and his guards rush towards the West Tower, where they will command their armies. He uses a special stone that allows him to speak directly with his generals who have a receiving stone. They are called the Eversight Stones. Lesador runs to the barracks and sees that his troops have already assembled in full armor. He smiles at the 500 soldiers rallied before him. His lieutenants help put him into his armor. A lieutenant hands him a small wooden box. Inside is a pendant inlaid with a glowing white jewel, one of the receiving Eversight stones. Lucas Bane stands on the viewing balcony of the West Tower of Turris Quink. The moment he sees the enemy is the moment he finally loses even the last sliver of hope. The opposing troops resemble an ocean of enchanted steel rather than an army. He estimates that the enemy's army is about 30,000 strong. Lucas sees the sun slowly falling into the pits of Noctur, and he stares at his own army, 8,000 men, flowing quickly out of the city gates. Lucas tries to think, but it seems that the ability is swept away by the foul oceans of the enemy. Lucas gravely asks the counselor, "What shall we do? Their army is indistinguishable from that of the sea." The counselor responds, "We cannot risk a full frontal assault, nor could we shoot them with arrows. We must attack from the sides, surround them." Lucas raises his Eversight stone to his mouth and commands, "Attack from the sides, surround them!" The army splits in half and both sides charge in their ways. Lesador leads his battalion northwards. A few arrows streak past as he rides swiftly upon Veloxian, one of the lords of all horses. He looks back at the West Tower, and the warmth of hope fills him, for he believes that the king knows the exact way to win this battle. The king never fails to guide his men to victory and peace. That moment, he remembered when the king himself went into battle and single-handedly bested the enemy's greatest general, Malagus. On that hallowed day, the sky was cloudy and dark, as if the sun was trying to hide away from the sheer enormity of Malagus, who was covered with silver armor so scintillating that it burned the eye. Lesador had seen 10 winters then as he watched King Lucas charge at Malagus, sword raised. When he brought it down and it clashed with the foul blade of Noctur, a sharp sound pierced the air and both sides fell to their knees. Only King Lucas and Malagus were unhindered. The mighty blade of King Lucas gleamed even when there was no light, each strike causing a piercing sound, and, in the end, the blade pierced the thick armor of Malagus, and after an explosion, Malagus was no more. The remaining opposing army quickly retreated back to the land of Noctur. Lesador's chin rises as he remembers the glory of his king. Finally, Lesador arrives at the position and with his men charges at the army of the enemy. His sword meets no resistance to steel, enchanted or otherwise, for it was forged from a rare metal called Vithyar, the same material that King Lucas's sword was made of. He sees that his troops around him are skewered by the foul spears of the pit. Lesidor's sword spins and twirls as the soldiers from the opposite army fall around him. Suddenly he hears the sound of a horn. Lucas stares at the battle in despair. He sees his men dying on the battlefield at the hands of the foul creatures of Nocturne. From the ground, the sound of a horn echoes. Lucas sees that from the north and south, huge armies of men, each about 10,000 strong, come upon the armies of the pit. He is stunned by the sudden arrival of the two armies. For a moment, he is confused about what he should do. Then he puts his hand on the handle of his sword, Durandal, whose power is so great that it guarantees the victory of any duel. Quickly, he unsheaths the blade and commands, "Armies of men, attack!" Lesidor is astonished by the power of King Lucas, who somehow convinced the men of North and South to fight with them once again. He shouts out, "Hail, King Lucas Bane, the King of Turrisquink!" With that, the armies of men charge once more with renewed vigor. King Lucas Bane is astonished by his narrow escape from total annihilation. When the battle ends in the victory of men, the King of North and South come to him. The King of North intones, "For 6 months, the creatures of the pit had sieged us. When that great storm came to us, the besieging armies disappeared. We followed them and saw they were attacking your city. Furthermore, the enemy somehow managed to corrupt the Everside stones and deceived you into thinking that we turned our backs on the Alliance. Never would we do that. Victory to the men of the North, South, and Center." The king gains a small amount of hope. He declares, "Indeed, victory to the Union of North, South, and Center." And after reading about the victory against the people of the pit, you close the book and look at the time. It's about time to go. Thank you very much for coming, dear Wonder. It has been an honor reading with you, and I hope that in the future I get to see you again. Good luck out there, and thank you again for coming.